that there was a press conference you participated in before the elections themselves, and you talked about one of the allegations that was raised there. But you do know that sometimes when this allegations, as it were, comes from officials of government, it moves beyond the realm of allegations to facts sometimes. So when the Minister of State for Defense says that, you know, they have information that, you know, people, thugs and what have you, are being moved to Osun State, people think that that should be a fact because he is Minister of State for Defense and should have that type of information at his disposal. Do you think that that also could have, you know, made the opposition party think that this might not be fair in terms of the deployment of security agencies?
I don't, because like you quite rightly said, for a Minister of the Federal Republic to make that kind of assertion, and I was at that press conference and participated in it, and I worked very, very closely with Fani-Kayode during the election, plus a number of Jalili Adesio, Minister of Police Affairs, and a number of other key party leaders in the states, in the Southwest. And, you know, for him to say that, and he said it, he meant what he was saying. And of course, I believe him. I am privy to some of the security reports that he was citing. And like I said, many of us on the other side, that is the PDP, felt a little bit intimidated at the fact that such a thing was going on. There was clear evidence of the fact that people were coming in from outside the state in large numbers. Many, many lorries were turned back. Many, many people were intercepted. We had to literally, or rather the government had to literally seal off the state to sort of protect us and preserve us so that the integrity of the process could be ensured. And there was also the other allegation that many people from outside were actually given voters' cards and so on and so forth. And they had to work against that. Now, it's because they did all these things that I, as a PDP leader, can sit in front of you and say, look, we lost the election, but the atmosphere that was created for that election was a good one, and it was a free and fair election, which we lost. And, you know, we're happy to have such elections. Whether you win or whether you lose, it's not a winner-takes-all affair. We had a credible election, and people were allowed to go out and vote. Now, the APC could well argue that, well, if the police hadn't been there, they could have vote, you know, they could have got larger numbers. I doubt that very, very much. I doubt that very much. And, you know, voters on both sides were a little bit intimidated by the security presence, not just their own voters or those that supported them, ours as well, but it was the right and proper thing to do. Like the president said recently, or the other day, people were killed in Bauchi in the 2011 election, 10 youth corpers. People were killed all over the north after the elections were conducted in 2011. People were castrated in places like Akwa Ibom, a terrible thing.
We also don't know.
These are the things that we were guarding, or the government was guarding against. I think it's the right thing.
We do know that oftentimes when it comes to general elections, security agencies oftentimes deploy resources to places where they would have been, or where there could be likelihood of violence in elections. So sometimes you find that you have a high-risk state when it comes to election period. Would you have considered Osun to be high risk?
I am from Osun. I'm from Ile-Ife. Even after the election was fought and won, conducted, after everybody went home, as it were, people were being attacked. In my local government areas, the 4 local government areas, the IFES, our supporters, PDP supporters, were being attacked by APC members. We didn't make a song and dance of it. We appealed to everybody to calm down. The election is over. We should try our best to try and move forward. There's no point in looking back and finger pointing. I mean, the alternative, you asked whether there was a security risk, and whether, of course there is, particularly in the Southwest. The volatility of the area when it comes to politics is very real. And I'm happy at the fact that this is the first or second election probably in our history in the Southwest that you haven't had a case of ballot box snatching, as far as I'm aware. You haven't had a case of murder or killing or maiming during the course of the election or just before the election. You haven't had a case of open, you know, people being harassed and so on and so forth by supporters of other parties. You know, it's never happened before. It happened in Ekiti, it's happened in Osun. I think that's the way forward. We need to ensure that happens.
Do you think that there could ever be a case of over-militarization? Would you consider any circumstance to be over-militarized?
I understand the concerns, but you have to balance it. you must have a certain level of what you call militarization. I will call it security, to ensure security for the people. You must have that, but at the same time, you must not allow it to slip over or spill over into a situation whereby people are being intimidated or feel that the security agencies are after them. I'm aware of some allegations that some of the leaders of the opposition have made, and of course, any situation whereby a security operative goes overboard and intimidates or threatens people or does things he shouldn't do, that is something that is deplorable. But for me, I think by and large, this was a good election. We should encourage our security services to continue to work hard to ensure that they create an atmosphere whereby we can have free and fair elections.
Because you've made two assertions now. The first was that your supporters felt reassured because they had been threats that if they did not, support your candidate, there could have been trouble for them. But you also did say that some of them too also felt intimidated by the number of security men
I mean,
deployed.
you can imagine, for example, in Ile-Ife, some of the young people or elderly people, some 65, 70-year-old person steps out and sees soldiers and sees, people from the security intelligence, the DSS, and sees policemen all over the place. Naturally, it causes some level of concern. However, it's better to see such people there, ensuring that they are protected, rather than to step out to see, machete-wielding thugs, thirsty for blood and threatening the lives of PDP or APC voters that if you don't vote my way, I'm going to hack your ears off. I mean, I prefer to have soldiers, security agents, and SSS people on the ground to ensure that we don't end up killing one another and we don't end up fighting in the polling booth. And, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. It worked. Nobody was killed. No macheting, no ballot box snatching, no very serious allegations of rigging, as far as I am aware so far, and so on and so forth.
What
and
were the
I think
issues?
that we should be thankful for that.